So now that we've found a neutral spinal position and midline stability while lying on our back, our belly, and while standing, I'd like to walk you through a bracing sequence because we need to remember that our connection to the floor is our foundation, and we need to have a strong foundation in order to express our strength throughout our poses. Now, to go through this bracing sequence, I want you to consider 3 points on the bottom of both feet. So you're going to think about the ball of the big toe, the ball of the little toe, and the heel on both feet. So come into a comfortable standing position and rock yourself slightly forward, slightly backward, to the right and to the left, and find yourself settled into the center. Now, engage your feet into the floor, those 3 points I just mentioned, and imagine that you're spinning your feet outward, except they don't actually move. And by creating this action of spinning outward, you are engaging the big toe mound, little toe mound, the heel, and the outer edge of the foot. This lifts the arches of the feet and creates a firm foundation of your feet into the floor. You might notice that when you do that, this activates the muscles in your legs. Next step, I want you to squeeze your glutes as hard as you can. And notice that by doing this action, we are setting our pelvis into a neutral position, and that's what we want in a lot of poses. Now, coming up to the belly, brace your belly as if you're getting ready to take a punch to the gut. Think about drawing the low ribs down toward the belly button, the low back ribs up toward the heart. And now with the chest, just relax the shoulders. Feel the sternum opening and lifting slightly and grow tall through the crown of your head. Now, doing these actions, I want you to squeeze every muscle and part of your body as hard as you can, 100%. And then without changing the alignment of your body, relax that effort of squeezing and find yourself just standing in this neutral and stable position. This is what we are trying to achieve when we're looking to have midline stability and finding it in all of the different poses. Another way to know whether or not we are stable through the midline in this neutral alignment of the spine is to imagine 2 horizontal planes. So the first horizontal plane you can find by taking your thumb to just below your sternum, and the plane is created by the flat part of your hand. Then the other plane, you're going to take your thumb just below your belly button. So you notice that these 2 planes are parallel to each other. We know if we have come out of a neutral position, if these planes move away from each other and we create an arch through the back, or if these planes draw toward each other and we create a rounding or curvature of the back. So this is another way to know whether or not you are in a neutral and stable midline position. Another way to think about achieving this neutral position of the spine and maintaining it is to consider the pelvis, the rib cage, and the head, and making sure that these 3 components are stacked on top of each other in a vertical line. This allows not only the optimal alignment of our body in space in this neutral position, but it also allows for the optimal alignment of our central nervous system. So we've discussed a lot the position of a neutral spine, maintaining and finding midline stability. There are a couple things that I'd like to discuss in more depth. The first one is engaging the pelvic floor to find strength and stability through our abdomen and our core. So this is how we're going to do it. Take a seated position and make sure that your right and left sit bones, you might rock a little bit right and left, and make sure you find your balance in between the right and left sides of your seat. And then maybe rock or tilt your pelvis forward and backward slightly and find the in-between position, the neutral position. Now, imagine the right and left corners of your seat, the right and left sit bone. Now imagine the pubic bone and your tailbone in the front and in the back part of your pelvic region. So these 4 points, right, left sit bone, pubic bone, tailbone, these 4 points create somewhat of a diamond shape on the bottom of your pelvic floor. Now imagine that within the center of this diamond shape, you are drawing up and in, almost like a suction cup action, to engage the muscles of the pelvic floor. This is an action that we can do at all times, almost all times during our yoga practice, to make sure that we find stability and strength through our deep core. So that is the action of engaging the pelvic floor. Next, what I'd like to touch on is axial extension, because a lot of the purpose behind practicing yoga poses, what you'll find and you'll hear a lot, is lengthen the spine, lengthen the spine. So we're trying to, through our yoga practice, our asana practice, find space, create space and openness through all different parts of our body, but especially through the spine. So axial extension is lengthening the spine, and it takes us slightly out of a neutral position. So we found neutral by laying flat on our back, feeling the natural curves of the spine. When we lengthen through the spine and create this axial extension, you can imagine those curves kind of elongating and almost becoming less pronounced. That's what's happening when we're creating axial extension. So I'd like for us to practice briefly what this action is, and so you can feel it and find it in other poses. Now, in your comfortable seat, I'd like you to really root down through the sit bones, grow tall through the crown of the head, and find this action of lengthening in both directions. From your center here, we root down, create length, and from the center, we grow tall through the crown of the head and create length. So we have these two opposing actions creating length in the spine. Now, without losing this sort of alignment, relax the lengthening. Just relax and find yourself coming back into a neutral spinal position. And the opposite of this, you might feel yourself, instead of having 2 points moving away from each other, think about the crown and the sit bones drawing toward each other, and we create compression of the spine. This would be the opposite of axial lengthening. So come back to neutral.